Okay, so my first question for you is, obviously, as someone who is still massively connected with the club, I just want to get your thoughts on the performances up to now this season.
I have to say, I've only missed two games this season, and that was Southend away and Gateshead away. And I think every other game that I've watched, um, we possibly should have won. And that's not a criticism of the team by any means. We've certainly moved on. I think for me, Ian Birchinall, Luke has brought a fresh way of playing, a positive way of playing. And it was an education, I think, to me, speaking to Macaulay Langstaff 2 or 3 months ago. It was a Friday, a Thursday afternoon. I'd been in some tours at the ground, and it was getting late. It was 2:30, and we were playing the Friday night. I says, "What are you still doing here? You should be having your feet up, ready for banging a few goals in tomorrow." He says, "Well, I'm about to go into a strikers meeting." I says, "A strikers meeting? You don't need that." I think he'd scored about 17 goals at the time. And he says to me, he says, "Les," he says, "you know, the goals are scored this year." He says, "Without these meetings, there's probably 6 goals that I wouldn't have got." He says, "It's not about the work we do on the training ground, which is very important." He says, "But we come back here and we work in large groups and small groups. They split into defenders, into midfielders, into the wide men, and also to the strikers. And we work on areas. This is with Luke and Ryan, where the defenders probably won't think the ball will be going." And he said it's coming off brilliantly. It is so good. So he's loving everything that's going on down there. I'm loving him. He's I think virtually every single game, the stats show that he has the lowest number of touches in the game. But he's certainly warmed into the way that Luke wants us to play. And I think probably the most exciting aspect of his game is when we lose the ball and he chases down defenders, puts them under so much pressure that they probably never experienced anything like that with most other teams. And they very quickly give us the ball away that enables us to attack again.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you with when you say like this is like the progress we made under Luke has been like no other, and that leads me on to my next question because I want to know what your thoughts are on this. Because for me, since he's came in, we've played some of the best football we have probably arguably in the last decade. I feel like we've moved on so much from what everyone says online, etc. That Birchnell put the foundations in place, but what Luke's done since he's came in is really took it to the next level. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think it's probably a feedback of the whole club. I've been involved there for many years as a player and a worker, and I think it would be very difficult for me to say there's been better times than it is currently, and that's stemming from the owners at the top, the atmosphere that they've created. It's just so wonderful, the people that's working behind the scene, and Luke and Ryan and their backroom teams, and I'm watching behind the dugout last night. I'm seeing at the end of the game they're all embracing one another. So it means so much to them all. We're on a. It's not just what you see on the field; it's the work that's going on everywhere in the club to make Notts County a great club again. And as I say, it is a wonderful place to go and be at the moment. And I say, I thank the owners so much for that, and Luke, who's come in, and he's bought into what was sold to him when he applied for the job, and he's taken it on. For me, a step further than it was with the previous head coach Ian, who I thought did a good job, but there was areas that we could improve, and they're a joy to watch, aren't they? And if people coming away from our matches now aren't satisfied with what they're watching, then the hard ones to please for me.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. And you just touched on the owners there, and I wanted to ask you, like, the biggest thing for me that the owners have done this season was obviously offer Luke the contract extension to 26-27 season. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, because for me that shows that what they found in Luke is what they were looking for previously. But obviously, that was obviously the idea for Birchnell, but obviously he left. But now to tie Luke down to that long-term contract tells me that not only that the owners want him to stay for that long, but Luke also wants to be here for that long as well.
Absolutely. And I work behind the scenes on match days in hospitality, talking to our members and match day guests that come along, and I have the honour of interviewing Luke sometimes, and I think it was the cup game at Christmas when I put the microphone under his mouth and asked him how he felt about Notts County, and he just the way he just spoke to the audience. He just loved the place, and he was talking about signing the new contract, and he says, "I can't wait to get it done." He had the whole place in raptures, really, because at the time there was a lot of talk going on. Will Langstaff go? This was around that time, December, January. Will Rodriguez stay? And but my thoughts were going on, we need the manager to stay. He's got to be number one. And when you look, he's coming to the club. Langstaff and Scott were here. They'd been brought in by the owners from the work that they'd done looking for in recruitment. We'd also bought Basrami, Bouldering. The players that come in, they've all come from lower levels, and they've come in and are making us. Well, I had some friends of mine who came to the match on Saturday, Forest supporters, and had a drink with them afterwards, and they were just absolutely gobsmacked at the standard. They said, that is unbelievable. That's as good as what Forest were playing in the Championship. So it's moved on massively, hasn't it? And everybody has to take plaudits for that. Luke is so pleased with his team. He's got analysts. They're working constantly on areas where we can improve, and it's very important. It doesn't just stay where it is now. It's got to be about improving all the time. They won't take second best.
Yeah, 100%. And I like to hear that as well, obviously, from a fan point of view, as well as like a journalist point of view as well. Obviously, you touched on there that a lot of our signings came from the league below, and obviously the main signing, Macaulay Langstaff, came from the league below. And last night, as everyone is aware now, he has broke the record for the most goals scored for Notts County in a season. That's a 92-year-old record that he's broken. I just wanted to get your thoughts, obviously, as a man who scored a lot of goals for this football club. So it only makes sense for me to ask you, like, how good of an achievement is that for him to come in and do it after 40 games with 5 games still remaining?
Well, it's worth the admission money just watching Macca for me. He's a different style player to me. I was a far post guy, knocking high balls over and nodding them down. Macca, they work with constantly. He is part of this team. He's warmed to the tactics that Luke has brought in, and it's endless. The number of goals that he can score is endless. I've said to him, I said, look, I want you to break the record, because I know we're going places when you're doing that, but please not in one season. He is just an absolute joy. And as I say, to watch the unselfishness of him when when he's chasing players, he runs himself all over the pitch to win the ball back again and get the. He is. There's no selfishness. He is a one club man, and he's doing his best for Notts County Football Club. I do know there are clubs sniffing about. It's interesting as well, because on the days when I'm working in the hospitality, I sometimes bump into some scouts that have come along, and out of curiosity, I tend to say, who you're watching. Is it Mackie you're watching? Oh no, he doesn't suit what we're looking for. I thought, well, that's good. Yeah, they don't like a goal scorer, looking for a striker. No, it's incredible, really. But no, I keep on and on about it. So it probably sounds boring, but the club is in the best place. I've known it for years, which has come from the owners at the top, and then Luke and his backroom team, and everybody is warm to it. You know, the work that goes on, the players that don't always get the pick. When you watch them on a match day, you know, if they're sitting on the sidelines, they're jumping on the pitch to celebrate with the boys. They all feel that they're involved in it. And that's Luke that's done that with them. You know, the work that's going on, that even though they might not get picked for a game, they're still part of the big picture. So yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, 100% agree, and I agree with you with that when you say that the players on the sidelines. So I remember, I think it was Chicksen's goal when we went 1-0 up against Eastleigh, and he's straight over to the bench to celebrate with him. And it's good to see the togetherness, because in recent years we've definitely not had that.
Yeah.
But I just want to stay on the topic of Maka for a second, because obviously he's came in the pre-season from the league below, and there's a lot of expectation on it, because as you know, like, this club needs a goal scorer. Like, to get out of this division, you need a goal scorer, someone who's going to put the ball in the back of the net at any given chance, and we found that. But to come into this club with the pressure that he had on his back and to score 40 in a season, it's just incredible. But I want to know, like, what does that mean for him as a striker? If you know what I mean, like, what does that prove for him as a forward?
He is. I have to tell you this as well. At York City away, I was sat watching the game, and in front of us, with some York supporters, and I'd been into the director's box to watch the game. So prior to the game, and then we took our seats and watched the game, and the Macca scored a goal, and our crowd are chanting his name and everything, and we jumped up and sort of been clapping, and these guys turned around and says, "Oh dear, we couldn't wait to get rid of him here. He just said he was awful, couldn't score a goal." And we got rid of him over to Gateshead, and he got a few goals there, but he said he didn't do anything for us here. So there is, it's not just about the single striker. This club is about everybody, and everybody being involved in the big picture. And as I say, Macca, when the analysis on every game is virtually he's touched the ball least amount of any of the other player in the team. You watch him when he hasn't got the ball, watch him working, watch him chasing. He just never stops running defenders into problems. And that's the work of a team, man. And that's what we've got. We've got however many players are on the pitch, they're all doing what they're doing for one thing, and that is to get Notts County back into the league again. And I have to applaud them all. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed. If and when we do it, I'll be the first on that pitch jumping all over them.
No, that's incredible. But that's what I mean. Like, I 100% agree with you when you say, like, it is we as a team look a lot better collectively this year. But there's another man I want to talk to you about, and that is Adam Chicksen, because you mentioned to me just now that you was a more back post man, like get it in the back of the net from the back post. And if you look at every goal I think that Chicksen scored this year, he's arrived late at the back post to tap it in. But he's a left wing back, and that's crazy because he's on double digits. And in the years we've had Chicksen, he's rarely ever scored a goal. I think the only one I can really remember is the one against Torquay in the playoffs. So I just want to know, like, for you, how impressive is that for not only Chicksen to get into double digits for the first time in his career, but also the amount of coaching that goes into that to make sure that you've got your left wing back attacking the back post like that every single game.
Well, absolutely. And once again, when you hear Luke talking about him, you know, they work on the training ground, and when they're in the groups on that area where Adam exploits on the far post. But he's another one that when we lose the ball as well, you watch him chase back. He's back in our box as well, defending. He does such fantastic work down that left hand side. And how many has it got now? He's into double figures, isn't he? Is it 10 or 11? And we mustn't forget. I always pronounce it wrong. Is it Chedwin or Sedwin? You know,
Kedwin, I believe.
Yeah, Chedwin. Yeah, and everybody's warmed into what's going on and how we the ultimate picture isn't the individual, it is the team, and that's, if they don't work as Luke and Ryan are wanting them to, then somebody else will be found to do that job. What you're watching is what they are working on behind the scenes to improve. And as I keep saying, Luke, when he's interviewed, he is constantly talking about improvement. You know, each game that they play is analysed shortly afterwards in the days that follow on mistakes that they made, how to improve and stop that happening, and how they're going to win matches, how they can score goals. And I think, you know, as the season's gone on, we've seen that, and I can't remember a team that's rolled us over this season. You know, we went to Dorking, how we lost that 3-1, I don't know. The Dagenham game, another day we've won that 5, haven't we? It was just incredible. And I think sometimes things are written above and you can't do anything about them. You know, Jason, the chief executive, tells me that after the Dagenham game, we get a letter of apology from the National League that we should have had a penalty. And decisions haven't quite gone our way. We got one last night, although I think, you know, there's nothing untoward with it. It was, the question was asked, can I take it quick, the free kick? And that was done, and bang, it was in the back of the net. I would think if it was me, I'd have felt, if I was a defender, I wouldn't have been too happy. But normally the defenders get on the ball, so you can't take it quick, don't they? So I think they went to sleep a little bit, Altrincham, last night. But no, we're in a great place.
Yeah, 100%. And I want to touch on that goal last night, but not so much like the dynamic of it. Was it fair? Was it not? But the man who took the free kick was John Bostock, and he's developing what is a very good partnership for this level. And even if we went up this season, I would be more than happy to keep that partnership with him and Palmer in League Two, because they are both Football League quality players. There's no doubt about that. You only have to look at their careers for that. But I just want to know, from your point of view, like, to not only get Bostock in, because there was 100% doubts for him, and he even mentioned that as well, like dropping down to National League. But what does that say about the environment that's been installed in the club to the point where you can take Bostock, who was playing League One football last season, and convincing that this is the right place for him to come play football? And you've got to say with Bostock as well, ever since he's been here, maybe not at the start, because obviously match fitness played a massive part, but as the games have gone on, he's grew into what has been a majorly influential player. Like, I remember the Barnet game, for prime example, when he was on the pitch, we had so much control. When we took him off, we lost it. So I just want to know, like, what does it say about the environment of the club right now, where you can convince these players like Bostock and then Palmer to sign new deals? Like, what does that surely that speaks massive volumes for what we've created.
Yeah, well, that's down to Luke again. John Bostock wasn't a player that got contact from the club. Would you like to sign? He came here. He joined in training sessions. He was a free agent, of course, and he was here for a couple of weeks, watching, joining in, and seeing what the club was about, what the training was about, and he like what that was the reason he signed. It wasn't just on hearsay, on talk. He saw what was going on behind the scenes, and it's something that he wanted to be part of. And I'm so pleased that he's joined us. He is certainly a man, especially when we're on top and we're leading the match. He's a calming influence for me. The way he gets hold of the ball and he passes it around. And he was a guy last night that said to the ref, "Can we take it quick or not?" And he'd seen Macca, bang, there it goes, and it's in the back of the net. So yeah. And also Jody, another class player, as we found out at Coventry in that opening match of the season. You know, he hadn't been playing for 5 years, and he did a lot, and he's come along, and he's certainly warmed to the training and to the way that we play. So yeah, the players from higher level are coming along and joining in. They're enjoying the way that we play the game. It's not everybody's sort of style of play at this level of football, is it? But they've come along and valuable additions to the full-time members of the squad. So yeah, the clubs, as I keep on about, it's in a happy place at the moment, and yeah, I'm sure others would want to come along and sign as well.
Yeah, 100%. And there's no problem with going on about it constantly because it just shows how good it really is going for us at the minute. But that leads me on to my final question. My final question is that obviously I'm not talking our next 5 games league title playoffs. I'm talking next 2-3 years under Williams, etc. I just want to know what you think is next for Notts in terms of progression now, because as we've just spoke about, we can attract the bigger players because of the football we play. So surely in the future, say we progress up into the leagues, say League Two, we can start attracting League One players on a more regular basis, etc. So I just want to know for you, like, what do you think's next in terms of transfer business, moving on forward as a club, continuing developing financially on the pitch, etc.
I think the club's model has been set by the owners. They were part of the group that went into Brentford and brought in the data into Brentford, and we've seen what they did there. From they were involved in Brentford when we were playing them in the 4th division, and they went all the way up to the top. The owners formed their business, I think it was probably about 12 years ago, and we are that sort of club. We don't go looking for big name players that's probably going to cost money. We've got all the information on the type of players that we want to be bringing into Notts County Football Club. There is a football, shall we say, board with the owners, with the football management team, and they talk about areas where they need to find replacements, or and the owners can then come up with a list of names that might fit that bill, and then that gets narrowed down and it moves on from there. So if we are going to bring a new player into the club, a lot of the work has been done, and it's less likely to fail. You know, over the past 4 years that the owners have been using this system, we haven't had too many flops, have we? Players have come in, and I think they'll sort of go for higher money than this. Is the younger players, I think, that have been sort of cast away at the clubs that they've represented in the past. So yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with the model that they have now. They don't need to go out and spend big money on players to improve. We're okay, yeah. But where that sits with Luke, I don't know. I think he's certainly enjoying life at the moment at Notts County. I don't think he'd want it to change in any way. The relationship with the owners, bringing players in, there isn't any problems at all. So he enjoys working with the group that he's got. But they're always looking to improve, whether that's, and every player's being given an opportunity to improve.
Yeah, 100%. And although I did say that was my final question, I have got a final question on top of the question. And it's not a very serious one, but I ask everyone that I interview, what do you think? How do you think this season ends? Do you think it's the title, which looks unlikely now, but you never know? Football throws up a lot of surprises, or do you reckon it'll be the case of the 5th playoff campaign in 6 seasons?
Yeah, I mean, for me, we are the best football team in the division, and I think if a few decisions had gone in the right way this season, I'm sure we might have been at the top with a few points in our favour as well. It hasn't happened that way. I don't know how it's going to end up. There's still a lot to play for, even though Luke said there's only one team up there. There's still a lot to play for. You know, if they can sort of lose one and all of a sudden it's a 3-point gap, and we're playing them, and lots of pressure goes back onto them. So no, it's certainly not finished yet. If we get into the playoffs, then I'm very positive that we are the best team in that league, that we can beat anybody. But you also know that matches like Dagenham are around as well, where things happen and you can't do much about. But I'm very positive about this season. I'm feeling very very strong about it that we will be there.
That's good to hear. That was the final question. You'll be pleased to know.